Hello and welcome to episode 190 of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions drive the show. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do in our channel. So please give this video a like and subscribe to find out more about us. Adriana is in the social chat, so please let her know your name and the city where you are joining from today, and she will post a link to vote up the questions that you would like answered the most, and of course for you to add your own. If your question is selected, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show, so get yours in early and stay with us to see that happen. Today's topic is about how to become a NIST Cybersecurity Professional. Cybersecurity is one of the most vital functions in modern business and a trending career option in 2023. It's crucial to safeguard digital assets, protect sensitive information, and ensure the integrity and availability of systems. So, how do you become a cybersecurity professional and where do you begin? To help us figure that out are our great panel, so let's jump in and meet them. Welcoming Mike Battistella he is the president of Solutions³, who provides full lifestyle IT management and cybersecurity solutions in both commercial and federal markets. Passionate about career development, Mike spends his time helping people learn how to build adaptive cyber resilience. Welcome to Level Up, Mike.
Thank you, Shanice. I've always appreciated being part of these panels. I always walk away learning something new, so I'm looking forward to the discussion today and working with the team here.
Wonderful. It's always wonderful to have you here, so thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
And our Level Up veteran, Mart Rovers, is a trainer, coach, consultant, and president at INTERPROM. Mart specialises in business relationship management, service management, information security management, and project and change management. He's looking forward to sharing his experience with you and answering your questions. Welcome back to Level Up, Mart.
Thank you, Shanice. Thank you, APMG, for having me, and a big welcome to all our live audience. I'm looking forward to this episode, especially with the esteemed panelists that we have amongst us. To set the tone, I found a quote from Bruce Schneider to set the tone for this episode. He said once, if you think technology can simply solve your security problems, then you don't understand the problems and you don't understand the technology.
I love your iconic quote, Smart. So thank you for sharing that with us today. And I look forward to hearing your answers. Returning to our panel today is David Moskowitz, Executive Director for Content Development over at the DVMS Institute. David works with leaders and experts to create compelling learning material and is the lead author of the fundamentals of adopting the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Welcome back, David. It's great to see you today.
Thank you, Shanice, and thank you to the panel. One of the things that I love about these is that I firmly believe that any group that's working together to accomplish a common goal is smarter than any one individual. So working with this esteemed panel and APMG, as well as hopefully contributions from our live audience, gives us all a chance to learn and grow and get better.
Absolutely. Together is always better. So thank you, David. I am delighted to also welcome Dr. Matt Lionheart. He is the CEO and Chief Architect of Advanced Security Experts. Dr. Matt G. Lionheart plays an instrumental role in shaping the cybersecurity landscape of the federal government. Leading with a forward-thinking approach, his company prioritizes innovation, ensuring that governmental digital infrastructures are not only safeguarded, but they are also prepared for the challenges of the future. It's great to have you on the show today, Matt.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with esteemed guests and the panelists. I look forward to hopefully providing some new content here for everybody. Appreciate Mike for inviting me and look forward to it. Thank you.
We're delighted to have you here today. So thanks for joining us. And our final panelist wrapping up today's panel is Sarbojit Bose. He is the owner and MD over at Cyberservices in Singapore, where he focuses on helping his clients adopt leading practice in the management and use of data and the security and services that go with it. A regular contributor to Level Up, so welcome back, Sarbojit.
Thank you, Shanice, and thank you, APMG, for having me. And also, I'm honored to be in this panel with a distinguished, friend that I'm here with, and also a big hello to all the listeners and all those who are joining us from across the globe. I hope that we'll all have a wonderful time answering your questions. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarbojit. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And finally, our question master for today is Lory Quackenbush, who joins us from the magical city of New York. It's so wonderful to have you as our question master today. How are you?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hello from a nice old morning in New York today. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Lory, can we have our first question, please?
You sure can. So the first question comes from David H. And his question is, what does it mean to be a NIST Cybersecurity Professional? What is it and why should I consider it?
Ooh, what a great question. Thanks, David, for submitting this. And if we could go to David, please.
All right. The NIST Cybersecurity Professional is a certification program that we created at the DVMS. And part of the reason that we did that is because one of the things that we saw was that too many organizations treated cybersecurity as if it was a technical endeavor rather than involving the entire organization. And they looked at cybersecurity or technical risk, not business risk. So what it means to be a NIST cybersecurity professional is that the program that we have says and takes everybody through the journey that says start with business risk, not technical risk, prioritize based on business risk, do the work in phases and understand how to deal with protecting the business in what's called create and concurrently protect, not create, then protect. And if you think about standard technology development, what typically happens? You program and then you deal with QA afterwards, as opposed to integrating the two so that it's create and protect and deliver digital business value. Why should you consider it? Because it takes a different mindset. It's not just a technical endeavor. It's a whole organizational endeavor. And technology and the technical approach to cybersecurity is just one aspect of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Sarbojit, can we have your answers for this question?
Thank you. Well, David says it all, but I would like to say yes, very much. Many people think whenever we talk about cybersecurity, it always has to be very technical thing, very techy. It has to be with people with, multi color hats. Well, it's not always so, because security doesn't mean that we have to always know the technical part, but why are we securing something and how much to spend for it, which is entirely a business-oriented decision. So it's always about the business, because if the business fails to survive, even for any other reason, security will not matter. So how much security is always dependent on the business. And that is the very basic thing here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sarbojit. And Mart, if we could have your answers to this question, please.
Shanice, what I like about the NIST Cybersecurity Professional approach is that if I go back in time 10, 15 years ago and I dealt with information security specialists, all they were thinking of was, I need a bunch of controls. As long as I have a bunch of controls in place, then I'm fine. Forgetting, like David said, all the organizational aspects. And what I particularly like about the NIST Cybersecurity Professional framework is that it focuses on the whole cybersecurity aspect of an organization. So it has this element in it as far as what it means to be in the cyber world, cyberspace, and organizationally particularly. So again, that additional layer that is very much needed. That's what I like about this framework, this whole organizational aspect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mart. And Mike, if we could have your question, please.
Sure. So great answer so far, and I just want to take it one level deeper. There's within the NIST organization, there's an entire series of publications that are focused around cybersecurity. So understanding the business relationship and how it fits into the organization, and it really is a risk management and a business driver. Those are all great. And being a NIST cybersecurity professional means you've got a passion for wanting to do it right. You've got a passion for understanding that there are practices, best practices, and procedures and operational aspects of it. So there's a number of publications around security-focused configuration management, around incident response. There's all of these different areas. So as a NIST cybersecurity professional, it's understanding and having a passion for getting into the controls, being able to operationalize the controls, being able to help businesses improve what and how they're doing when it comes to cybersecurity. And that's where the DVMS Institute comes in, and the publications and training that David has been so involved in and instrumental in is taking what the publications have and really being able to apply it and operationalize and improve. And so being a NIST cybersecurity professional means I'm becoming an expert in those publications and how to successfully apply them within an organization, department, or agency.
Wonderful. And that's so important. So thank you for sharing that with us. And Matt, if we could have your answers to this question.
Yeah, I think everybody's provided some valuable answers thus far, but I'm going to expand just a little bit on it, on the professional part of it. As an architect and engineer myself, there's so many frameworks and so many best practices. Where the rubber meets the road is what makes you a NIST cybersecurity professional. We take those controls and we implement them and we test and we understand them, but then we also understand where our business is, whether we're in the healthcare, logistics, or defense. We understand what our business is, and then we help secure the criticality based off of what our business leaders have us focus on. And by doing that, that's what makes a difference between being a NIST cybersecurity professional and just being an information security or a cybersecurity administrator, so to speak. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. David, do you want to add some comments to this before we wrap up?
Real quickly, one of the things that we did in creating the practitioner program is instead of looking at cybersecurity as a technical thing, as I mentioned at the opening, we took a systems approach, which means see the whole, the entirety of the organization. But to do that means thinking differently about cybersecurity and asking different questions. Rather than technical ones, you need to ask them from a business perspective. But the other thing that's important about the NIST Cybersecurity Professional certification is that the whole thing, pardon me, the whole thing is built as a scalable overlay. What that means is that you don't have to adopt something new. You improve what you already have in place by integrating cybersecurity into everything that you're doing, from HR through finance, through everything right down to the technology.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, panelists. They were some great answers. Lory, can we have our next question, please?
Absolutely. Next question comes from James. Do I need to have a basic understanding of cybersecurity to start my journey becoming a NIST cybersecurity professional?
Wonderful. This is a fantastic question from James. So panelists, who would like to answer? If not, I'll come round to all of you. So we will go to Mike, Mart, and then David.
Sure. Having an understanding of cybersecurity is certainly not going to hurt, but it's not going to impede the individual either. So because it is so business focused and risk focused, taking policy and procedure, we've taken individuals that, maybe they were scrum masters, project managers, maybe they were a system administrator, and they just wanted to level up their career. I had to throw that in there, and really be able to, take this on, and it's absolutely not a requirement. You're going to learn cybersecurity as you go, but it's through a different lens, and that's the important thing. It's the lens in which you view what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and that's where a lot of the DVMS Institute's training helps you to kind of clear that lens, so that you're seeing you've got the perspective that you need, and you can grow in that career. But it's a resounding no. You don't need to. It's a great benefit, but it's absolutely not required.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And a point to you for the level up your career moment. And Mart, if we could have your answer, please.
So obviously, having some basic understanding is helpful, and a few other particular backgrounds when it's maybe technology related is helpful. But I'd like to say a few of your character traits would be a good thing to have too. Throw that in the mix, like being inquisitive, skeptical, responsive, and diligent. I mean, just to mention a few. I mean, if those character traits, resonate with you, as in, hey, that's me, you might already be a good candidate to become that NIST Cybersecurity Professional.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mart. That was great answers. And David, if we could have your comments, please.
Sure. Just to echo what Mike, the simple short answer to the question, do you need basic technical knowledge? The answer is no. Does it help? Absolutely. But in crafting the program, one of the things that we did, Dave and I, my co-author for the two books, the Fundamentals and Practitioner book, both have a military background. We both have a large systems background. We both have a consulting background. So we looked at this whole thing and tried to put it together. As I said in the answer to the first question, we realized that too many organizations treat cybersecurity as a technical issue and as a compliance issue. And if you think that works, I point you to Target, that had a breach of several tens of millions of credit cards, but they were in compliance with cybersecurity. The real issue is understanding how cybersecurity fits into the business. So the business and IT have ways of dealing with change, have ways of dealing with assets. And what we say in the course is, don't do cybersecurity change, don't do cybersecurity asset management, integrate the cybersecurity stuff into what you're already doing. Well, the only way you can do that is if you realistically have more than a technical or cybersecurity knowledge, because you have to understand how it fits into the business.
Absolutely. That's really useful. Thank you so much. And Matt, if we can have your comments to this question.
Sure. So James, I think that having an understanding of cybersecurity to start the journey is not necessary. A lot of people that I work with in the cybersecurity industry come from many different backgrounds. And normally the background that they already have in the area that they are in helps translate into the area of cybersecurity in which they can be a specialist in. For me, example, I started off as a network engineer and had very little cybersecurity knowledge. But later on, I transitioned over to cybersecurity, and naturally, one of my areas of expertise has been network security. So I think whatever background you come from is going to help enforce your NIST cybersecurity professional journey.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Sarbojit, if you could wrap us up on this question, that'd be great.
Yes, with all that needs to be spoken has been. So the gist of this is, whatever you like, whatever you have, you can start with that. Doesn't matter if it is basic advanced or no. But if you have the passion, if you have curious enough, you can start. And if you know the business, you can understand about the business, and you are a part of the business, then you can surely be a part of the cybersecurity professional as well, provided you read the books which David has co-authored and learn about it and know how to effectively use them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And James, I hope you've got value out of these answers today. Thanks for your question. And we're just going to move over to social and say hello to a few of you. So hi, Gwen. It's so nice to see you joining us from Surrey today. We hope you enjoy the show. And Priscilla, it's so nice to have you here from Nigeria. Our Nigerian community in Level Up is growing, so it's wonderful to see new members come and say hello. Hi, Christina. It's so nice to have you from Poland. We hope you're enjoying this show. And remember to get those live questions in. Get them in early so we can get your answers to you. Wonderful. Lory, shall we take the next question? Please.
Absolutely. The next question is from Kevin in New Jersey. His question is, as a cybersecurity professional needs to always be able to think like the bad guy. How do I go about doing this best?
Oh, this is a great question. David, if we could have your answers on this, please.
Yes, indeed. Again, I hate going back to the course, but it is something that we covered. There is an exercise at the practitioner level that says, how would you attack the fictional company that we use for the hands-on exercises? And then as homework, don't bring it back to class. How would you attack your own company? All right, so those exercises already exist. But the way to do that, to address Kevin's question, is if you've heard of this thing called use cases, what do you do to make things work? All right, and following a script to make it work, and what do you do if certain things do or don't work so you have alternatives? There is also a different spin on a use case called a misuse case, where the use case approaches it from how do we make the system work and keep working. The misuse case says, how do we deliberately and overtly attack the system? And it's looking at how we attack the system in the misuse case, which is put together very similarly to a use case, but from a different perspective. Then that's the best way to go about organizing the way that you attack your system. And you can do so if you're dealing with it ethically as a white hat hacker with knowledge of the internal systems, and then build the misuse cases to deal with how you would attack them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. What a great answer. Thank you. And Mart, if we could have your comments on this, please.
That was indeed right along what I was going to mention. And I'd like to add to that, David, that a passion for learning and being a lifelong learner and being inquisitive, I'd like to add to that into the equation as far as this answer. I mean, never stop learning, never stop being curious. I think that would be another thing to make sure that you are comfortable with, and it's a character trait that represents you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Sarbojit, if we could have your answer to this question.
Yeah, I would say just like if you are a fireman, you need to know what happens to fire, how they are, how they spark up, and then other things. So then you can douse the fire. If you're a doctor, you need to know about human anatomy so that you can heal the person. So if you have to secure an organization, you have to know how the bad guys are thinking, what they might be doing. Because it's just like the cat and the mouse. It's always someone is just a step ahead. And you need to have the inquisitiveness, you need to have that. Now, just one small thing from my career as a trainer in cybersecurity. When I am training, I try to dare my student to say, hey, you know what, this is something you can do, kind of a hack. Can you try this out and tell me what it is? And of course, this is nothing that will attack someone, but to spark that up. And once in my own career in Singapore, I found a massive government portal did not do the misuse case testing, and I accidentally found it out, and then we got it resolved. So these things are really true, as what David has said, and I have experienced. And yeah, we need to think about them more than they think about us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Matt, if we could have your answers to this question.
I think the other panelists have done a great job in answering it, so I'll add in that, in order to think like the bad guys, there are things out there like threat intelligence that you can study and feeds in which you can get information about the latest attacks. So going about and establishing a good black hat practice is good, but you always want to make sure that you don't utilize your black hat skills to cause any danger. You have to exercise them, but exercise them in a safe and lawful way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Mike, did you want to finish us off on this question?
Sure. So, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about the lens in which we view things. And I think as a cybersecurity professional, viewing the lens, looking at your organization through that lens of cybersecurity, and knowing that organization that you're a part of, the survival is dependent on good cyber hygiene and resilience. And that's what a lot of the things that are being taught in the course. As far as, where to go, what to do, I would encourage you to get very familiar with the MITRE kill chain, and the MITRE attack framework, because those are areas that are going to give you, how do things operate? How do they work? How do the bad guys think? And I want to finish it with just a really short story. So I hired an individual who was going to be really specialized in ethical hacking and penetration testing and all those things. And, we could never have an 8 o'clock meeting because he would always be, 2 hours late. And it really frustrated me. But what I learned is he would stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning on all the, dark webs, the websites that the bad actors spend a lot of time in and sharing ideas and best practices. So the whole idea of thinking and becoming the menace, as it talks about in the book, anything that you can do to expose yourself to what the thought process is and how the bad actors are, and the practices, I don't know if I should say best practices or worst practices that they're sharing, get an idea of what they're doing, and then how do you protect your organization against those things?
Absolutely. What fantastic answers. And Kevin, we hope that you got value out of those answers. Lory, shall we take our next question?
Absolutely. The next question comes from Paula Harrison. Her question is, who is responsible for addressing IT risks? Does responsibility remain with the IT department, or does the board have a level of responsibility as well?
Oh, what a fantastic question, Paula. Thank you for submitting this. David, if you could, we could take your answers.
Real quick, cybersecurity, the responsibility for business risk starts with the board. Period. End of discussion. If the company's that big and it has a board, that's where the business risk starts. Cybersecurity risk is a subset of business risk. If something happens, if there is a cybersecurity incident that impacts the business, it impacts the bottom line, it impacts reputation. Again, I'll go back to what I mentioned with Target. What happened? They were in technical compliance, but nobody considered the business risk. And look at what it did to tens of millions of people who had their credit cards stolen, and what it did to the reputation of the business itself, and what Target had to do to compensate people who were victimized by the bad actors. So it starts with the board and cascades from there. In other words, enhance your existing organizational strategy to include cybersecurity, organizational governance to include cybersecurity. Don't treat it as an add-on that leads you down the Target path.
Fantastic answer. Thank you so much. And Mike, can we have your answers to this question?
For a long time, IT and cybersecurity were separate entities. And we've talked a lot about pulling them together and working together. And when you look at where the overlap is, we talk about configuration management. It's clearly an IT service management function. And then you look at the NIST publications, and there's a security-focused configuration management publication. So clearly they are dependent on each other. When we look at asset management, it's clearly an IT service desk function, but it's a really critical piece of cybersecurity. So we need these two working together. But the issue becomes when the cybersecurity group or team is viewed, treated, and budgeted as an IT group. There's a different pull for each of those things. So the leadership looks at things that the cybersecurity team needs, and they think that that's just one more shiny ball that they're chasing. Now the cybersecurity group is battling or arm wrestling for budget. And as soon as something happens to the business, they get hammered. And so it's really easy for the executives to get upset and frustrated when something bad happens from a cybersecurity perspective, but they don't necessarily level that group up to a C-level or a board level discussion. And until that happens, you're always going to have two different pulls going on. I think the market is changing. I think they're beginning to realize, especially some of the things that here in the U.S. that the SEC has put out there, where board members and C-level individuals are responsible financially and legally for organizations being hacked and supply chains being affected. So I think we're going to see that change, but C-level and board level individuals have to understand that they have a pretty significant responsibility in the cyber resilience and privacy of an organization.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. And Sarbojit, can you quickly finish us off on this question?
Yes, after what has been said, I don't think I have to answer the main thing, but a small thing I would like to, the use of the word responsible. Now, classically, Paula, when we say responsible, we actually do mean the person who is supposed to do a work, and accountable is someone who's answerable for the job being done, good or bad. So I guess you have been actually referring to accountability when you use the word responsible, and that's how it has been answered. So, but if you were to use it in the classical way, who is responsible? IT risk is, yes, responsible, but IT risk is also a business risk, as what David said, and it is the accountability of the board who are the head of the business, who makes the decision. They are answerable at the end of the day. So the business can go on in the right way and to get the stakeholders, value to be delivered. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, panelists. What fantastic answers. And Paula, we really hope that this has been helpful in answering this question for you. So, Lory, are we ready for the next question?
We are. So the next question comes from one of our live LinkedIn viewers, Ato Kwamina. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Her question is, as an HR practitioner, how would I benefit from the Cybersecurity Professional program, and how would this help transform the HR system?
Oh, what a fantastic question. Thank you so much. We will go to Matt, Mike, and then Mart.
Yeah, so in HR, and that can be also in any other sector of the business that you're in, understanding what cybersecurity is and how it affects your individual division will always help. When I've been working with others, you run into those that understand why their passwords have to be a certain length, and you run into people that don't want to have their passwords a certain length because it makes it difficult to remember. So to help transform your HR system, understanding cybersecurity and why you're doing things will help with the morale of the other members of the HR organization.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Fantastic answer. And Mike, if we can have your comments to this question.
Yeah, I was so excited when I saw this question come in. I couldn't get my hand up fast enough. So thank you for that question. As an HR professional, I would ask your chief information security officer or whoever is your highest level that has overall cybersecurity responsibility. Ask this question: what is our posture? What is our strategy for cybersecurity awareness? So within the cybersecurity framework, and really any framework that has to do with cybersecurity is going to ask an organization what their cybersecurity awareness training program is. And there's a lot of programs out there that, you go in and there's this mandatory, 2-hour session that they do once, maybe twice a year. And most of the people know it's just a checkbox. They're not really listening. They're bored and whatnot. So as an HR leader, I would encourage you to get engaged, like not just asking the questions, but actually engage yourself in the cybersecurity awareness training. Now, through the DVMS Institute, they have a DBR Digital Business Risk Awareness course, and that I have my clients. I kind of say this should be mandatory. It should be part of your overall business awareness. And at a bare minimum, at least the leadership, so they understand what it is that's out there that they're trying to protect against. And even when we offer higher level, more skills training, CompTIA courses or ISC Squared courses or whatever it might be, that we're teaching them how to protect, but we're not teaching them what they're protecting against or why this is so important. So I think incorporating HR as a key player in a cybersecurity awareness training program within the organization is really critical. And what better way to do it than go through the training and understand what it's all about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Fantastic answer. And Mart, if you would like to add your answers here, please.
Great answer so far, indeed, and a wonderful question. As an HR practitioner, first and foremost, whether you're an HR, finance, legal, logistics, you name it, having the foundational understanding, knowledge of what is cybersecurity would be a good start. So at least across the organization, we speak the same language. Second, if you know your HR system inside and out, then that foundational knowledge and understanding will also help you understanding where does cybersecurity fit into my practices. Where do cybersecurity practices fit into my HR practices? And finally, when it's about knowing these cybersecurity, and from an HR perspective, cybersecurity is it's a mindset. And if I look at HR to help me establishing a particular culture in my organization, a mindset, a culture, a behavior around cybersecurity, I think HR could be very instrumental in accomplishing that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Sarbojit, if we could have your answers to this question.
Yeah, right. Now, I'm going to look at a different angle, which is being from HR, you are working and you are recruiting people to work in the organization. And do we know that how much of these people who are coming to work for us are really with us, or they are also a source of threat to my organization as well? So this is called an insider threat. And if you just go and type this out, insider threat, 2023, you will see statistics coming up, and which says about 50% of the companies insider attacks have been, on the rise, and about 75% of the HR people across the globe say that they are scared that their people might attack them. So if that be true, yes, I think you should also be benefiting if you're a part of it. And by all means, and follow the other thing that, rest of the panelists and David will be sharing of how to go about it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sarbojit. Fantastic answer. And David, if you could wrap us up on this question, it would be great.
Very short, because I want to capitalize on the excellent responses that the rest of the panel has already given. Knowing the cybersecurity awareness and posture of the organization, what that's ability to ask different and provide different evaluations when you look at resumes, so that cybersecurity is a business issue, not a technical issue, so that it impacts every aspect of the business. HR now includes questions either directly or hidden questions, hidden agenda questions, in terms of getting at how people approach things like integrity, see something, say something. Different evaluation techniques for HR.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You did break up a little bit there, but I think we got the gist of what you were saying. So thank you for that insightful answer, David. Lory, let's take our next question.
Sure. Next question is a great one from Michael. He says, how do you work with CEOs and executives with zero knowledge or enthusiasm towards security?
Oh, this is a great question. And I see all the panelists getting ready to put their electronic hands up. So, David, we will start with you and then Matt.
W. Edwards Deming, a long time ago, quality expert, said, change is not mandatory. Neither is survival. It's very simple. Either the CEOs and executives get with it, or they could be in $1 billion company and there's a lot of inertia in it. But if they don't get enthusiastic toward it, there are two things. Mike alluded to one of them earlier, and that's the SEC, Security and Exchange Commission in the US, is now saying that CEOs and senior executives have the same level of responsibility for cybersecurity that they do for the financial issues brought about by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in the United States. So the first one is the possibility of fines and jail. The second one is there may be a lot of inertia in $1 billion. If they don't get enthusiastic, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to get replaced by somebody who has the enthusiasm, or the company's going to go down the tubes. Deming was right.
Perfect answer. And guess what? You had it here first. CEOs, get with it. Wonderful. Matt, if we could take your answers to this question.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time I ran into an executive that didn't want to invest into cybersecurity, I'd be rich. But with your CEOs and your executives in cybersecurity, it is a business and a technical problem. And being a cybersecurity consultant, it's an art form. You have to be able to connect with your executives and be able to sometimes break it down Barney style on why we protect things. All executives and CEOs that I've ran into, they're very seldom want to be proactive into it. They want to invest money after the attack has come. Be very good as a consultant to show your executives why they're protecting something, why it costs $60,000 now instead of $60 million later. And if you can appropriately do that with things like the DVMS Institute's overlay, then you will be successful in that area.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Mike, if we could have your answers to this question.
Yeah, I've found myself leading incident response teams fairly regularly. And the interesting times are when you've had the discussion with the executives, you've gone through an assessment, you've given them your recommendations for improvement and stability. And the conversation usually ends with, thank you, that was so helpful. We really appreciate your insight. We'll get back to you. And then there's this, delay and dragging of the feet, and they still are looking at it as an IT solution. And most of the C-levels, a number of C-levels, just they see it as a cost that they don't want to incur. Now, fast forward, incident happens. Now you're on a call with the C-level and board members and stakeholder sponsors, and like literally you've got C-levels in tears, knowing that they could have spent a little bit of money, a little bit of time, and prevented this, or at least deterred it from happening, or the best they could there. But they know they could have taken corrective action and they didn't. And now you go through this gut-wrenching thing. And here's what I hear: whatever it costs, I don't care what it costs, no matter what, just get us back. And they're willing, like Matt said, they're willing to spend the money then, which is significantly more than the preventative. So they need to be able to incorporate this as a standard part of their budget to always improve their resiliency, their cybersecurity posture, privacy, all of those things.
Absolutely. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, eh? So thank you so much for that fantastic answer. And Sarbojit, if we could have your answers quickly.
I would like to have one small quotation from, Peter Drucker, who said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if the culture of cybersecurity is not properly, the posture is not properly set, all the strategies that has been planned will all go for a toss. So I think, I would like to call it off from myself on this one. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. What a great quote. So thank you, Sarbojit. And Mart, if you could wrap us up on this question, that'd be great.
I'd like to build on Mike's answer, where the executives were not too thrilled, knowing that they could have done better. It's that emotional aspect, I think, that you need to home into, convincing them with numbers and examples, as in the threats and doing the scare tactics. They've been there, done that when it comes to listening to salespeople, consultants, and so on. But having them go through a fictitious cybersecurity attack, and then, okay, what is your level of preparedness to go through an actual scenario, a made-up scenario? Even more when you combine that with another group of non-leaders and see how they perform. Of course, you hope that the non-leaders perform better than these executives when you walk them through that scenario. So that's emotional aspect of embarrassment is maybe something else that may wake them up.
Absolutely. Those feelings are so important. So thank you so much for that insight, Mart. And Lory, shall we move on to our next question?
Absolutely. The next one is a two-pronged question from Mike B. What challenges have you faced working with organizational leadership in adopting the NIST framework and a continual improvement approach? And also, how did you get started going down the NIST Cybersecurity Professional path, and what was the initial motivator?
Ooh, two questions in one. How lucky is Mike? Now, I think I know who Mike is, so I'm going to go round to everyone in the panel, if that's okay, and leave Mike till last. So, Mart, if we start with you and then David.
The challenges that organizations and leaders are faced with when it's about adopting the framework, it typically starts with having a basic understanding of the framework itself, and also the level of preparedness of the organization. Does leadership know to what extent the organization is ready for inserting these practices into their daily practices?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mart. And David, if we could have you next, please.
Sure. The biggest challenge that I see, and some of it, NIST, for those who are not in the United States, stands for the National Institutes for Standards and Technology in the United States. They're the ones that write a whole lot of standards, not just in cybersecurity, but in other areas as well. And part of the challenge that organizations face is in part based on some of the wording in the current version of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. And that word is implement. Pardon me. You can't implement a framework. You can make the governance decision to adopt the framework and then adapt it to fit the organizational context. So the biggest challenge is getting organizations and the senior leadership to understand that it's an adopt and adapt approach that's necessary. And then dealing with continual improvement, because the threat landscape is constantly evolving. The bad actors are agile, they're quick, they only have to be right once, whereas the organization has to be right all the time. And there are tools that are available, like the MITRE ATT&CK database. Attack is not spelled ATTACK, it's AT ampersand CK, because that's their trademark, and MITRE is MITRE. And what they do is document all of the technical issues that are available where people have dealt with different types of attacks. That doesn't mean it's a complete database because it's always evolving. So the big challenge is getting people to think about adopt and adapt. How do you start going down the path? Get educated. Mike mentioned it. Start with awareness. Understand that cybersecurity, going back to 9/11, we have the mantra in the United States, if you see something, say something. That's not a government responsibility. That's an everybody responsibility, everybody in the organization. Mart mentioned it earlier about culture. Culture starts at the top. When Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft, he said he realized that his primary job was to be the curator of culture so that the 100,000 minds at Microsoft could be much more productive and produce better things for their customers. Start down the path by getting awareness, commit to lifelong learning. Look, I'm biased. I helped develop the program. Start with our stuff, but the point is that use it as a jumping ground for continual education and continual awareness.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Matt, your answers to this question.
Yeah, the challenges faced with organizational leadership in adopting the framework. I think David had hit it there. It's any framework from NIST to ISO, whichever one you want to adopt, you do have to adapt it because there's certain things that simply are more important or not applicable to your organization. And how do you get started going down the NIST Cybersecurity Professional path? For me, it was just a pure accident. I joined the United States military and then found out that I liked cybersecurity. But that was my initial motivator, was feeding my family. But in this industry, if you got to love it, you got to love learning, because like David said, there's already a new attack. The MITRE attack framework can help you, but there's always another attack coming out, and they only got to get right once. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Sarbojit, your answers to this question, please.
Yeah, I would like to just put in a nutshell to say that, as James Snook said, that my message to companies is that if they think they haven't been attacked, then they have not been looking hard. So as we knew earlier, that there are two types of companies, one who know that they have been attacked, the others they don't know about. So whatever it is, we have to be more proactive, and whatever has been told, we have to do it and know that how to stop the next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Mart, if we could have your answers to this question.
I already answered this one.
Apologies. I'm so sorry. I meant Mike. Thank you for making me aware. Mike, if we could have your answers.
Sure. All good responses, guys. It's interesting because, as most of us here on the panel, we grew up with ITIL, the IT Infrastructure Library. And, ITIL was a set of best practices for doing IT. And unfortunately, because so many organizations have linked cybersecurity to IT, they think of this same kind of thing. It's just another framework. The difference was, ITIL was never mandatory. ITIL was a de facto standard, and it was optional. There's a lot of organizations that have compliance requirements, so you have to look at it differently, right from that standpoint. The other thing is, and I think the big issue is that the higher ups, they look at compliance or passing the audit as desired state. So we all talk in terms of current state, what do we look like today? Desired state or future state, what do we want to look like? And too often for organizations, passing the audit is desired state. And so you pass the audit and it's just like, get me there, pass the audit. Okay, we passed the audit. Could you pass the mustard? It's like they go right back to business as usual. And the truth is, that's the beginning of the journey. That's the starting point. We've got to get them to that point so they can continue to do business and adhere to the compliance requirements of that business. But that's the starting point. And what we try to do within the NCSP training program and the CPD model, create, protect, and deliver digital business value, is to take it from there and put processes in place for continual improvement. And Mart mentioned the exercises, and I really encourage anyone listening to this, is if you're working with organizations and either as an advisor or consultant or an employee, have the organization do what's called a tabletop exercise. As Mart laid it out, it's a case scenario where you have teams, you organize teams, you put them through a real incident response, and you get to look at, measure, and see how they're responding, and do they even know what they're supposed to do? And oftentimes from there, you can build a more of an awareness of how important this really is to the business. The C-levels, they don't like FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And too often they've been sold solutions based on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So yeah, there's a little bit of fear of what's going on. And yeah, the bad actors are on the systems and we don't even know about it. But the more important thing is to help them realize the digital business risk, the importance their reputation is to the industry, and that one breach could be the difference between survival and non-survival.
Absolutely. Thank you
Sorry,
so much.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, it was an amazing answer. So thank you so much. And I would like to thank all of our producers for your excellent questions today. And watch out for your name in the credits if you have a question in and it was selected. Now, panel, it's time for your closing remarks. So let me begin with Mike. How did you find the show today?
It was a great show. Panelists provided some great insight. Thank you again for the invite to be a participant. I really enjoyed this. And for those listening online, great information here. It's real easy to now go back to business as usual, as I mentioned, but take the points that the panelists made, put them into practice, and we're here to help. So reach out. And Kevin from New Jersey, I'm in Northern New Jersey as well. I want to meet you. So reach out on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. We always accept connections on LinkedIn as long as you're not trying to sell us stuff. So connect with us. And thank you so much, Mike. It's always so lovely to have you here. Mark, can I have your closing remarks, please?
I really enjoyed this show. Thank you. Great questions, by the way, and the answers enormously informative. As could have been expected, from a panelist like this. I'd like to end with a quote, and maybe it's a good measuring stick. It says, it's from Richard Clark, who said, "If you spend more on coffee than on IT security, you will be hacked. What's more, you deserve to be hacked." Ouch.
Okay. You've heard it from the iconic quote man himself. And David, can we have your final remarks, please?
Sure. First, I want to thank the panel for their answers and also for the questioners for theirs. I think you made us all think. I'd like to just summarize something, and I think it was Sarbojit who mentioned Peter Drucker. He asked the question, what's the purpose for business? And he said, it's not to make a profit or anything to do with economics. It has to do with creating and retaining customers. In the 21st century, there's only one way to create and retain customers, and that's to understand that every single business deals with some aspect of digital business value that has to be created and protected, not from the CEO's perspective, but the perception of the customer, because that's how you retain the trust of the customer, which is another way of saying that's why CEOs and senior executives need to do more than just take a passing interest in this. And that whole, what I just said was in part sparked by the questions that were asked. So thank you for the questions. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to APMG, Shanice, Lory, and the one behind the scenes, Connor. Thank you all for making this an excellent session.
Thank you so much. And it's always lovely to have you here, David. So thank you. And Matt, if we could have your final remarks, please.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be a part of this panel. And I had a closing quote. And funny enough, Sarbojit had already stole it from me. But there are only two types of networks, the ones that are compromised and the ones that do not know they're compromised. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's wonderful to have you here today. And Sarbojit, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you, everyone, from the panel. I have learned a lot from this one, as I always do, and I enjoy. And also, thanks to all our listeners and viewers from across the globe. Your questions are awesome. That's what makes this 1 hour like 1 minute. So again, it's a thing from what we learn from, the science and relativity. So, well, I would like to also end like Mart, because he has got this in me, is about patience. So our good friend Edward Snowden, he said, it is not data that's being exploited, it's people that are being exploited.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, all of our panelists today. What a great show, Lory? It was wonderful to delve deep into how to become a NIST Cybersecurity Professional. Can I have your closing remarks, please? Lory?
It was wonderful. Sorry. It was wonderful. Okay. My first time as question master, and I've learned a lot. So I couldn't be happier to join this today, and some great questions. So thank you.
And thank you. You was a great question master. Now, moving on, over on our website, you can search to answers to over 2,000 questions, a free resource connecting you with experts from around the world. Don't forget, you can also listen to the Level Up Your Career as an audio version on your preferred podcast platforms. Search Level Up Your Career with APMG. Coming up on Level Up Your Career, we will be discussing the world of projects with how to become a PMO specialist on Monday, the 2nd of October. And if you are interested in the modern approaches to service management, join us on Friday, the 6th, as we explore careers in that popular discipline. And then coming up on Monday, the 9th of October, we will be exploring how to create double the value in half the time. If you join us there, go over to YouTube, head over, like and subscribe, and you will never miss a show. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon.